That's when Rogerio raised the empty cart above his head.
That is lethal! What's up, y'all? It's Thee-Marciano. I'm here back with another video. Today is Frightening Friday, and
into the most.
You already know what we gotta do. Something frightening. Make sure y'all watch this at nighttime. I'm personally not going to. It is 3:13 right now. Yeah, make sure y'all watch this at night. Turn off all your lights. I'm trusting you to do that for me. That's my one request. 2 requests. I'll get onto that one later. This video might be edited differently because, this is my new editing software, Microsoft Clipchamp, and I think it's gonna be better than CapCut because I have a variety of music genres I can have now that are mostly free, and I just started to hate how CapCut is just like a money scam now. But there's a lot of stuff I can do, so videos are gonna be a little bit different. And I'm gonna have to get used to that, so my editing style might change. That's just a warning for this video. And let's get started. Alright, this is the most disturbing CCTV incidents, iceberg.
Oh, my grandma.
Drop! Are they gone, sir? Drop! Are they gone?
24 cases, 7 levels. I've put together some of the most disturbing moments ever caught on CCTV footage. We'll begin with the mildly chilling and with each level descend into the truly horrifying. Let's get into the most disturbing CCTV incidents iceberg. Beginning at the tip of the iceberg.
Pause.
Level 1. Jogger pushes woman in front of the street. On the morning of May 5th, 2017, a 33-year-old woman was walking across Putney Bridge in London when something shocking happened. A jogger ran past her and suddenly pushed her into the street. She fell hard right in front of a moving bus. The number 430 bus traveling at 12 miles per hour swerved just in time, missing her by only inches. If it had been going any faster, she might not have survived. Strangely, about 15 minutes later, the jogger returned to the same spot. The woman tried to confront him, but he ignored her and kept running. Luckily, the bus's dash cam had recorded the incident, and that footage launched a police investigation. The jogger was described as a white man in his 30s with brown eyes and short brown hair. Police reviewed 50 possible...
You're young, dude. Like, you're 30 years old. You're grown. Of course, this is in London. There's no correlation at all. It's just in London. But, dude, you're 30 years old and you're pushing an elderly woman in front of a bus. That is, like, insanely messed up, man.
Suspects and arrested 3 men, but all were released with...
Police investigation to find a jogger who pushed a woman into a path of a bus on a bridge in London has been closed. The search was launched in August 2017 when CCTV footage was released of a bus driver swerving to avoid the woman on Putney Bridge, southwest London. Officers looked at more than 50 suspects and arrested 3 men who were all released without charge. The Met Police said all lines of inquiry had now been exhausted. The 33-year-old victim was fortunate to escape serious injury in the incident, which took place on May 5th, 2017. 3 months before the film of it was released, officers described the suspect as a white man aged in his 30s with brown eyes and short hair.
Without charge. After a year of searching with no results, the case was closed in June 2018. The man who nearly took a life has never been identified. Shopping cart launch. On February 16th, 2023, 36-year-old Rogerio Santos da Silva was waiting in line at a store when he suddenly stepped out of the queue. He walked over to grab an empty orange cart, calmly lifted it, and began walking back toward the woman who had been standing behind him. Unaware of what was coming, the woman had wheeled her own cart forward to take his place in line. That's when Rogerio raised the empty cart above his head.
That is lethal! That is lethal! Nothing can be that serious, bro.
In line. That's when Rogerio raised the empty cart above his head and hurled it directly at her. The metal frame slammed into her head and she collapsed instantly.
Oh my
CCTV
gosh.
footage captured the terrifying moment as nearby shoppers rushed to help. She remained unconscious for a while before being placed in a wheelchair and taken to the hospital. Rogerio was arrested on the spot and charged with minor bodily harm before being released.
Minorly?
The 45-year-old victim suffered no serious injuries and later said she had done nothing to provoke the attack.
Dude. He got a minorly charge? He threw a shopping cart at her, dude. This is level 1. Oh
Oriole
no.
Gray. On October 20th, 2020, around 2:20 p.m., 77-year-old Celia Ward was riding her bicycle on a shared-use pavement alongside a 30-mile-per-hour ring road in Huntingdon, Cambridgeshire. At the same time, 46-year-old Oriole Gray was walking toward her on the same path. As they passed each other, Oriole shouted, "Get off the pavement," and gestured with her left arm.
What?
Startled, Celia veered off the path, straight into the road, and into the path of an oncoming car. The collision was immediate. She was pronounced dead at the scene.
Oh, that's so
Oriole,
sad,
who has
dude.
cerebral palsy and partial blindness, left without checking on the victim and continued her journey to collect a prescription. She was later arrested and charged with unlawful manslaughter. On March 2nd, 2023, she was sentenced to 3 years in prison. But in 2024, her lawyer flipped the script. They successfully argued that shouting and gesturing alone couldn't be considered assault. The conviction was overturned. Gray was released, and no retrial was scheduled. Celia Ward's death, however, remained final.
That's just messed up. I mean, I don't have, like, anything to say to that.
The Raricks. In February 2021, Christina Raricks pulled into her garage, unaware that someone was waiting to ambush her. As she parked, a man emerged from the side of the house and slipped into the garage just before the door closed behind her. In the early hours of the following morning, Halton firefighters responded to a fire at the Rarick residence. Once the flames were extinguished, they discovered the bodies of 56-year-old Christina and her husband, Andrzej Rarick, inside the garage. During the investigation, authorities found the CCTV footage recorded on a neighbor's property across the street. The intruder was 30-year-old Harrison Brown, who had a business relationship with Christina. Investigators determined that once the garage door closed, Brown attacked Christina, fatally stabbing her.
Why?
He then stabbed Andrzej multiple times. Brown remained...
Like, what do you get out of doing this? There's no way this is all just, like, intrusive thoughts, dude. Impulsive thoughts. You get nothing out of this, dude. That makes no sense.
On the property until at least 9 p.m. and returned at dawn to deliberately set the house on fire. On March 6, 2021, Harrison Brown was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first degree and 1 count of arson. On December 1st, 2023, he was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years.
He deserves it.
Hey, Abyssal fans, quick update before we proceed.
Oh my gosh,
From now on, our icebergs will be 8 levels instead of 7. However, YouTube would take our channel down if we posted content this disturbing here, so we'll be posting it exclusively to our Patreon. If you'd like to watch the exclusive 8th level while supporting us at the same time, Freezer Death. On September 8th, 2017, 19-year-old Kenika Jenkins borrowed her mother's car to attend a party with friends. She never made it home. Around 11:30 p.m., Kenika and 3 friends arrived at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Chicago. The party was on the 9th floor in room 926. The room was packed with nearly 40 people in a space meant for 2, but it didn't stop the girls from having fun. Just 15 minutes after arriving, Kenika called her older sister. And that would be the last time her family ever
Oh
heard
my
from her.
gosh, dude, that's so
Over the
sad,
next couple of
dude.
hours, she drank cognac heavily while posting videos and going live on Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook. By 3:15 a.m., the girls were ready to leave, but Kenika was too drunk to walk on her own. Staggering, barely able to stand, she realized she'd forgotten her phone and car keys upstairs. So her friends left her alone by the elevator to retrieve them.
So stupid,
By
dude.
the time they returned, she was gone. Panic set in. Her friends called Kenika's mother, Teresa Martin, who rushed to the hotel.
See, what I heard is the freezer door that she went into, like, can't shut on its own. That is what I personally heard. There had to be someone who closed the door. Like, oh my, dude, like,
Hotel by 5 a.m., but the hotel staff refused to help without a police report.
oh my gosh,
she called
dude.
911, and that report wasn't filed until 1:15 p.m., hours after Kenika had vanished.
Oh my gosh,
Police combed
dude.
through endless hours of CCTV footage. Eventually, they spotted her alone stumbling through the hotel hallways, but they didn't see her going somewhere else or exiting the building. Eventually, on September 10th, they spotted her alone walking into an unused kitchen area on the lower level. Immediately, the hotel staff was instructed to check the kitchen, but nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to see. Kenika was found face down inside a walk-in freezer, one shoe off, frozen to death. There were no signs of trauma or violence, so the authorities ruled the death as accidental hypothermia, worsened by alcohol intoxication and prescription medication of a drug called topiramate. But her mother and the public were not convinced. She was not on prescription for that drug, and the CCTV footage didn't show her walking into the freezer. Teresa Martin filed a $50 million lawsuit accusing the hotel of negligence. In December 2023, they settled for $10 million. The case was officially closed.
Oh my
Many
gosh,
questions
dude.
are still left unanswered. Mackenzie Shirilla. At first glance, the surveillance footage looks ordinary, just a car turning smoothly into Progress Drive in a quiet business park. But what happened next was anything but normal. Inside the 2018 Toyota Camry was 17-year-old Mackenzie Shirilla, her boyfriend Dominic Russo, and his friend Davian Flanagan. Weeks before this, Mackenzie had gotten into an altercation with Dominic and threatened to crash the car.
Oh,
She was
nah, bro.
upset
Stay
over
away,
the
bro.
disagreement and refused to calm down, so Dominic called his mother and asked to be picked up. Their relationship was described as toxic, and during every disagreement, Mackenzie degraded her boyfriend, calling him names, threatening him, and sometimes damaging his property. So, on July 31st, 2022, after she drove on Progress Drive onto Alameda Drive, she lost it. She drove the car at 100 miles per hour, accelerating and jerking the wheel left to right before finally crashing into a brick building. The result was fatal. Dominic Russo died at the scene. Davian Flanagan was rushed to the hospital but later died from his injuries.
Oh my god!
Mackenzie was found unconscious behind the wheel, but she survived with minor injuries. In August 20, rushed to the hospital.
Survived with minor injuries. Sure, we'll go with that.
But later died from his injuries. Mackenzie was found unconscious behind the wheel, but she survived with minor injuries. In August 2023, Mackenzie Shirilla was convicted on 12 counts, including aggravated vehicular homicide, assault, and substance possession. She was sentenced to life in prison with eligibility for parole after 15 years. What appeared to be an accident was ruled deliberate and deadly.
They did not need to do all that with the video.
On the evening of June 7th, 2017, 24-year-old Courtney Lake left her home on Wellington Crescent in Mount Pearl, Newfoundland. At 7:54 p.m., she was seen entering a black GMC pickup truck driven by her ex-boyfriend, Philip Smith. He had recently been released from prison after serving time for multiple crimes committed against her. That was the last time she was seen alive. At the time of her disappearance, Courtney was dealing with tensions from two former partners. Philip Smith, her most recent ex, had been violent toward her in April 2017. Her mother reported the attack, which ended the relationship. Another ex, the father of her son Oliver, was also trying to rekindle their past relationship. In May, Smith escalated his behavior by sending intimate images of Courtney to her new boyfriend without her consent. She reported him again and was granted a peace bond barring contact with Philip. But on June 5th, Smith attempted to contact her 33 times. When she didn't answer, he drove to her house. She called the police, but he left before they arrived. He was arrested later and spent 2 days in jail. After his release, he picked Courtney up, and she never came back. When interrogated, Smith later admitted to being with her that night, but denied involvement in her disappearance. With no body, no charges were filed. Months later, he was found dead near Bellevue Beach. The case remains open, and Courtney's family are left searching for answers and remains. Level 4. Tesla crash. On the morning of November 5th, 2022, Zan, the owner of a Tesla Model Y, was on his way to his cement store in Chaozhou, China. But what began as a routine drive quickly turned into a nightmare.
No.
The problem started when Zan couldn't park the car.
Dude.
The vehicle suddenly swerved.
These Teslas, like, actually scare me sometimes. I actually don't trust the auto drive feature, bro. It shouldn't exist. And there's self-driving cars, too, that you can just Uber to pick you up. And you can't touch the wheel. You can't do anything. It's stupid. And the fact that these things can go 0 to 60 in 1 to 2 seconds is also, like, terrifying, dude.
And began accelerating uncontrollably, reaching high speeds over a stretch of 2.6 kilometers. At first, a motorcycle passed by and the Tesla swerved to avoid it. But just over a kilometer in, it struck another motorcycle heading in the same direction. The rider died at the scene, yet the impact wasn't enough to stop the car. The Tesla kept going. Moments later, it collided with a bicycle coming from the opposite direction, but the rider survived with minor injuries.
Okay, that's good.
Then it hit a cargo tricycle, causing the car to veer sharply to the right. From there, it slammed into a dumpster truck, struck a high school girl riding her bicycle, and crashed into a van before finally coming to a stop. 3 people, including Zan, were seriously injured. The teenage girl did not survive.
Dang, that
After the
sucks.
crash, Zan insisted he hadn't been distracted or intoxicated. He claimed he repeatedly tried to hit the brakes, but the vehicle wouldn't respond. However, Tesla had a different story to tell. Tesla's forensic analysis showed that the accelerator pedal was at 100% engagement in the seconds before the crash. No braking input was detected at any point.
Oh, wow.
In March 2023, a court-appointed forensic agency concluded the cause of the crash was driver error, not mechanical failure. Tesla was cleared of liability. Zan now bears full responsibility for a tragedy that claimed 2 lives.
That's crazy, dude.
Rianne Colson's disappearance. On May 21st, 2025, CCTV captured 34-year-old Rianne Colson leaving St. Mary and Benedict Church in Coventry. She wore a black hoodie and ripped black jeans. She had just visited a food bank. Nothing seemed unusual except that it was the last time she was seen alive. Rianne, a mother of 1, was working as a sex worker in the area at the time. Her absence went unnoticed until June 17th, when she failed to reach out to her twin sister Kristen on their birthday. That silence was out of character, so her family reported her missing. The West Midlands police launched a large-scale investigation, assigning over 100 officers to the case. Her family made public appeals, hoping she would be found alive. Investigators combed through hours of CCTV footage, phone records, and gathered more than 50 witness statements. But with each passing day, hopes of a safe return faded.
Dang.
On June 24th, police arrested 42-year-old Mohammed Durnian on suspicion. Shortly after, Adam Moore was charged with assisting an offender. 3 days later, on June 27th, a body was found in Binley Woods near Coventry. She was later identified as Rianne Coulson. The investigation into her death is ongoing. For now, her family is left with heartbreak, unanswered questions, and the devastating reality that Rianne never made it home. Harshandeep Singh. On December 6, 2024, 20-year-old Harshandeep Singh was on patrol during his shift as a security guard when the unthinkable happened. Harshandeep was an international student from Haryana, India, studying at Norquest College in Edmonton, Canada. He had been in the country for 18 months, and it was only his third day on the job. While checking the stairwell of the apartment complex, he encountered two individuals, 30-year-old Evan Rain and Judith Solteau.
Oh no.
Harshandeep was shoved down the stairs, and before he could run, he was shot from behind. Police responded to reports of gunfire at the building. When they arrived, Harshandeep was found unresponsive. He was taken to the hospital where he was later pronounced dead. Evan Rain and Judith Solteau have both been arrested and charged with first degree. Lorraine Cox. On September 30th, 2020, the family of 32-year-old Lorraine Cox reported her missing. Though messages were still being sent from her social media accounts, her family believed something was wrong. The tone felt off with strange spelling errors and excuses for avoiding phone or video calls. They were convinced someone else was pretending to be her. That concern sparked a police investigation which involved reviewing hours of CCTV footage. In one clip, police found the clue that would unravel everything. 2 days earlier, Lorraine had been walking home alone after a night out with friends in Exeter. It was a route she knew well, and she walked calmly.
What happened to those friends? Those are not some good friends. Uber, taxi, call the police to drive you home. Literally anything else. Why are you walking home?
She was
alone.
Not alone.
At night.
A man slowly trailed her before approaching and persuading her to go with him to his flat above a kebab shop. CCTV later showed him leaving the building multiple times to dump items in bins across the city. But Lorraine, however, was never seen leaving. The man was identified as Azam Mangori, a 24-year-old Iraqi Kurd who had previously been denied asylum and was facing deportation. Inside his flat, he suffocated Lorraine with her own t-shirt and left her body there for 8 days. During that time, Mangori used her SIM card to impersonate her on social media and messaging apps, trying to convince family and friends she was alive. But when they reported her missing, he panicked. He dismembered her body and scattered her remains across Exeter. Parts of her body were found in alleys next to his flats and about 9 kilometers away in woodlands. On April 7th, 2021, Azam Mangori was found guilty of Lorraine's death. He was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 20 years.
All right.
Level 5, Lee Pomeroy. On January 4th, 2019, around 1 p.m., Lee Pomeroy boarded the train at London Road Station in Guildford with his 14-year-old son. Shortly after, 36-year-old Daryl Penseal entered the train at the next stop, and what should have been a routine ride home took a fatal turn. Soon after boarding, Darren got into an argument with Lee over a blocked aisle. The exchange lasted only a few seconds before Darren walked away to another carriage. But Lee wouldn't let it go. He followed him, leaving his son behind. In the next carriage, the confrontation resumed. The men continued arguing and pointing at each other. Then, in just 25 seconds, Darren pulled out a knife and stabbed Lee 18 times. Darren fled the train at the next stop where his girlfriend picked him up. Meanwhile, Lee's son remained alone in the carriage as paramedics arrived at Horsley Station. Lee was pronounced dead at the scene. Darren Penseal was arrested the following day at his girlfriend's home. On July 12, 2019, he was convicted of the crime and sentenced to life in prison. fell onto the tracks. On June 3rd, 2025, CCTV footage at the Pusat Bandar Puchong LRT station, Selangor, captured a heartbreaking moment of unawareness. A 36-year-old Taiwanese man who was walking alone on the platform edge accidentally fell onto the train tracks.
Like, genuinely, that's not even his fault. Man, we need to, like, make a new system of railing that, like, goes up when the train isn't there and then goes back down when it is there. Why haven't we thought of something like this yet? With how many accidents there are with train tracks?
As soon as his body hit the ground, he looked up to see an oncoming train, but it was too late to run back. The train struck him before stopping a few seconds later. Onlookers stood on the platform edge, horrified and waiting for emergency responders to get his body out from under the train. He was pronounced dead at the scene by the fire and rescue team. Although the CCTV footage answered all questions, police are carrying out investigations and have ruled out foul play. To avoid any repetition of such incidents, the transport ministers have instructed Prasarana Malaysia Berhad, Rapid Rail's owner, to install platform screen doors at all LRT stations. Paulus Petrasinus. On July 13th, 2020, Paulus Petrasinus was captured on several CCTV cameras laughing and playing with the man who would later take his life. In the hours leading up to his death, 24-year-old Paulus was seen with 20-year-old Sean Buell. The two appeared to be in great spirits, laughing, joking, and chatting casually in the corridor of a building before heading to a nearby convenience store. But everything changed when they returned to a block of flats in Cherville Rise, Heathtown. Inside was the apartment of Paulus's girlfriend, where an argument broke out between the two men over a deal. In the heat of the moment, Sean pulled out a hunting knife and stabbed Paulus. The wound was catastrophic. The knife pierced his diaphragm, liver, and the protective sac around his heart. One of his coronary arteries was completely severed. Paulus was pronounced dead at the scene. Meanwhile, Sean had fled the building, leaving his friend to die. Despite the brutal nature of the attack, Sean walked the streets surprisingly calm and collected. He disposed of the knife, called a taxi, and made his way to Shrewsbury. He was arrested there 2 days later. Although the perpetrator has been caught, the knife is still missing. For months, authorities combed through hours of CCTV footage, during which time Sean kept changing his story. At one point, he claimed an epileptic fit caused him to black out. Later, he said he and Paulus had been sparring with knives and that he couldn't remember anything afterwards. Eventually, the weapon was found, hidden in a pile of dirt wedged between a fence and a wall. On January 13th, 2022, Sean Buell was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 20 years. Cristina Ortiza Lozano. On September 21st, 2019, around 9:50 p.m., CCTV captured Cristina Ortiza Lozano walking with a man on a date. First, they went to Sprinkles Ice Cream Parlor, then the Giddy Bridge Pub on London Road. Unbeknownst to them, Christina's ex-boyfriend was secretly following. In April 2018, Cristina moved to the UK from Spain with her longtime boyfriend Abdelaziz El Yachioy Orzut. The couple met in school, dated for 12 years, and lived together in Liverpool before relocating to Southampton. But in August 2019, Cristina ended the relationship. While she had moved on, Abdelaziz had not. That night, he was lurking in the shadows, watching, following, and waiting. As Cristina and her date walked toward her flat on Spear Road, CCTV caught Abdelaziz trailing behind. Outside her apartment, he stood holding flowers. When Cristina arrived, he followed her inside while her date waited outside. Once inside, he grabbed a kitchen knife and stabbed her 23 times in the neck.
Gosh, dude!
Cristina was pronounced dead at the scene. Police found Abdelaziz in the garden, bleeding from stab wounds to his chest and other minor injuries. He was treated and later charged in court. On March 17, 2020, Abdelaziz El Yachioy Orzat was found guilty of the crime and sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 19 years. Twin criminals. On January 13th, 2010, 16-year-old twin sisters Yasmia and Thee-Marciano Whitehead returned home from school to find their mother dead in a pool of her own blood.
That's crazy.
One of the twins ran outside and flagged down a deputy patrolling the streets. This triggered a series of investigations, but nothing prepared the police or the public for what they would uncover. At first, the police treated the girls as victims who had just lost their mother in a brutal attack. The 34-year-old woman was lying in her bathtub at her home in Georgia. She was bleeding from the head, had bite marks, cuts, and scratches all over her body. But as the questioning began, something didn't sit right. The twins claimed their mother, Nikki Whitehead, had locked her bedroom door, so they didn't see her before leaving for school. They added that they left home around 8 a.m. and were only 10 minutes late for their first class. During the interrogation, the girls cried and insisted they wanted their mother back, but soon, things grew suspicious. Detectives noticed they were covered completely and even had gloves on their hands, so they decided to split them and interrogate them separately. When detectives asked them to remove the gloves they were wearing, they found fresh cuts and bite marks on both girls.
Gosh.
The twins claimed the injuries came from an earlier fight with each other. One of them even said she bit herself when she was stressed. To convince the officers, she started to bite herself after she was separated from her sister. Despite the inconsistencies, police allowed them to go home while they carried out a deeper investigation over the next 4 months, gathering forensic evidence, bite mark impressions, and blood samples. The girls claimed they arrived at school by 8:15 a.m., but CCTV footage showed them entering school after 10 a.m. Earlier footage also showed them at a gas station at 10:10 a.m., either refueling or buying something. Their alibi was clearly false. In May 2010, Yasmia and Thee-Marciano were arrested and charged with their mother's death. They were held in a juvenile facility until their case was moved to adult court. For nearly 4 years, the sisters denied any role in their mother's death, even as police uncovered more forensic proof and caught more lies when questioning them separately.
Plead guilty, bro.
But then, one of them cracked.
I did one butt, and I hit it with butt.
In January 2014, Thee-Marciano Whitehead pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter, falsification, and possession of a knife during a crime. She revealed that a fight had broken out between them and their mother that morning. In a fit of rage, they hit her with a ceramic pot, bit her, and stabbed her several times. After she died, they dragged her body to the master bathroom and tried to clean up the mess. When they realized it was too much, they made up a story and went to school as if nothing had happened. In February 2014, Yasmia also pleaded guilty to the same charges. Both girls were sentenced to 30 years in prison and are currently held in separate facilities under the Georgia Department of Corrections. Grace Millane. On December 1st, 2018, Grace Millane met with her Tinder match outside the Sky City complex in Auckland, New Zealand. It was under a Christmas tree, and she took a picture of herself to send to her family. That was the last they would hear of her. Her date with 26-year-old Jesse Kempson kicked off in good spirits. They started at Andy's Burger Bar at Sky City, where they ordered multiple drinks and chatted for about 90 minutes. From there, they walked over a few blocks to the Mexican Cafe on Victoria Street, where they ordered more drinks and stayed for another hour. Throughout the date, Grace was smiling, talking, and interacting with Jesse comfortably. By 8:30 p.m., they moved to another bar across the City Life Hotel, where they continued drinking, kissing, and socializing. Later at 9:40 p.m., CCTV in the hotel lobby captured them walking arm in arm and smiling before using the elevator that leads to Jesse's room. This was the last confirmed sighting of Grace alive. By the time Jesse Kempson was captured again on camera, he was alone and making unusual purchases. The morning of December 2nd, 2018, Grace's 22nd birthday, she was already shoved into a suitcase. Between 8 and 8:40 a.m., CCTV captured Jesse at the warehouse buying a large suitcase. Then he visited a Countdown supermarket where he purchased cleaning supplies before returning to his room. Later, he left his room to rent a red rental car and returned to City Life Hotel. That afternoon, while Grace's body was still in his room, he went on another Tinder date with another woman. Later that evening, between 7 and 9 p.m., he bought more carpet cleaners and hired a rug doctor machine, then returned it after use. At 9:26 p.m., Jesse wheeled 2 suitcases to the rental car parked at Wilson Car Park. One of them held Grace Mullane's body.
Oh,
The
that's
morning of
crazy.
December 3rd, he drove into the ITM hardware store in Kumau, where he purchased a shovel and bolts. Then, he buried Grace in a shallow grave along Scenic Drive. To remove forensic evidence and bloodstains, he took his clothes to the dry cleaners. After that, he proceeded to a self-service vehicle wash to wash off any underlying bloodstains on the vehicle. Meanwhile, Grace's family, who were far away in the United Kingdom, grew increasingly worried when she didn't contact them on her birthday. On December 7th, they reported her missing, and a police investigation began immediately. After reviewing hours of CCTV footage, Jesse was identified and arrested on December 8, 2018 at the City Life Hotel. At first, he denied having anything to do with her disappearance, but when evidence was piling up against him, he confessed to taking her life. According to him, her death was the result of a consensual rough sex that went wrong, but the jury didn't believe him. Eventually, he was charged with the death of Grace Mullane and sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 17 years.
Yep, there we go.
Level 6. Odessa Carey Jr. This is CCTV footage of 36-year-old Odessa Carey Jr. walking with a blue bag slung over her shoulder and a white plastic bag in her hand. Inside the blue bag was the decapitated head of her 73-year-old mother, also named Odessa Carey. On April 2019, a day before this footage was captured, Odessa Jr. smashed her mother's head with a mallet, taking her life instantly. She then proceeded to decapitate her using knives and scissors. Afterwards, she carried the severed head to the bathroom and removed her mother's brain before placing the head inside the blue bag. Then, she calmly placed the bag on her shoulders and went out to visit a family friend named John Marie, as if nothing had happened. At John's house, with blood still on her hands, Odessa used baby wipes to clean herself before showing him what was inside the blue bag. Disturbingly, she pulled out her mother's head and kissed it in front of him. At the time, John didn't own a phone, so he waited until the next day before contacting the police. When the authorities finally reached her, they found the decapitated head hidden in a cupboard under the sink at a home and guidepost where she was staying. Odessa sat there, looking blankly as officers read her rights. Earlier that year, despite clear signs of violence and warnings from family members, Odessa Carey Jr. was discharged from a mental health ward after being assessed as a low-risk case.
That's crazy.
She had a history of attacking her mother and harming pets. Eventually, she was charged with her mother's death, but due to her severe mental illness, she was sentenced to a secure hospital instead of a prison.
Bro.
Meta Price.
She might kill
On
me
October
in prison
29,
now.
2014, family and friends of 44-year-old Meta Price Valentine reported her missing. In the days leading up to her disappearance, she had been acting strangely. When she called her mother the day before, she spoke in riddles and sounded confused. Earlier that evening, around 5:30 p.m., CCTV captured her walking toward her apartment complex in Sycamore Park off Old Wilmington Road after attending a neighborhood watch meeting. Just as she entered the building, a man ran in after her. And that was the last time she was ever seen. She didn't show up for Bible study that night and stopped responding to calls. Police quickly identified the man who ran after her as Reginald McDowell, an ex-partner with a history of violence toward her. Back in 1999, while Meta was seeing another man, Reginald kidnapped, robbed, and shot at the couple. He was charged and sentenced to 15 years in prison, but only served 10. After his release in 2011, he resumed his relationship with Mehta until they broke up again in October 2014, just 2 weeks before she disappeared. Initially, Reginald cooperated with the investigators, but later on, he cut off all communication. On March 30th, 2018, Reginald McDowell was formally charged with first-degree and kidnapping in connection with Mehta's disappearance. He is still on the run. Mehta Valentine has never been found dead or alive. Ronan Kanda. On June 29th, 2019, 16-year-old Ronan Kanda was walking home after visiting a friend to buy a PlayStation controller. It was around 8 p.m. and Ronan had his headphones in, smiling at his phone as he strolled through Wolverhampton, completely unaware of the danger behind him. Earlier that day, 17-year-old Prabjit Viadhesa had picked up a ninja sword set and a large machete from a local post office. He had ordered them online under a fake name, and he was out to collect a debt. Alongside his friend Sukhman Sergil, also 17, Prabjit watched Ronan leave his friend's house and mistook him for the person who owed him money. As Ronan walked home, unaware, the two followed him, weapons in hand. Just yards away from his home, Prabjit stabbed Ronan twice with the sword, one cut deep in his hip and the other penetrating into his heart. He collapsed and died at the scene. Then they realized they harmed the wrong person. In a frenzy, they fled, disposed of their weapons and clothes, and tried to cover their tracks, but it didn't last. Within days, both were arrested and charged with Ronan's death. On July 13th, 2023, Prabjit Viadhesa and Sukhman Sergil were sentenced to life imprisonment.
How can you not
with
tell
minimum
us the
terms
wrong
of 18
person?
and 16 years, respectively. After Ronan's death, lawmakers and his grieving family pushed for tighter controls on online knife sales. His case added urgency to national efforts to restrict access to dangerous weapons and prevent further tragedies like his.
Yeah, like, bro was
Level
wielding
7.
a sword.
Louise Smith. On May 8th, 2020, 16-year-old Louise Smith was reported missing after she failed to return home from school. Just a month earlier, she had moved in with her older cousin, Shazlyn Jane Mays, and her husband, Shane Mays. They all lived together in Leigh Park, Havant, in Hampshire. Once Louise was declared missing, investigators combed through hours of CCTV footage to trace her movements and uncover the reason for her disappearance. On May 8th, 2020, at noon, CCTV captured Louise leaving the home with her uncle Shane. They both walked into the Harvant thicket around 11:45 a.m. That same day, Shane appeared on camera later that afternoon. He was alone, buying a pizza and a Lucozade at a local store. Later, he returned home alone as well. Louise was nowhere in sight. 13 days later, Louise's body was discovered in a clearing in Havant Thicket, about a 40-minute walk from her home. Her body had been severely burned and violated.
Bro.
It was so badly damaged that investigators had to rely on dental records to confirm her identity.
Oh, that's
Shane
crazy.
Ray was arrested almost immediately, but he denied being involved in her death. He maintained that although he walked with her in the early hours of May 8th, he stopped partway to the shops and returned home. However, when CCTV footage, phone data, and forensic evidence began disproving his account, he eventually admitted he was with her longer than he originally claimed. In late 2020, he admitted to luring her to Harvant Thicket, but still denied the crime. Instead, he pleaded guilty to manslaughter, claiming he lost control and didn't mean to take her life. The court rejected his version of the story, and he was sentenced to life with a minimum term of 25 years.
Nice.
Sword attack. On April 30th, 2024, just before 7 a.m., 36-year-old Marcus Arduini Monzo drove a gray van into a pedestrian on a quiet residential street in Hainault, East London.
Come on, man.
Moments later, he stepped out of the vehicle wearing a yellow hoodie and wielding a samurai sword. What followed was a terrifying 20-minute rampage. Marcus ran through the streets, chasing and slashing at random people. He then broke into a nearby home, attacking a couple while their 4-year-old child slept upstairs. At around 7:15 a.m., as 14-year-old Daniel Anjorin walked to school in his PE kit and headphones, Monzo ambushed him from behind, slashing his chest and neck.
Oh my gosh.
The injuries were too severe. Daniel died on the street. By this time, police had arrived and were trying to de-escalate the situation, but Monzo refused to stop. He continued to run wild, swinging his weapon and eventually stabbing multiple officers. PC Yasmin Mesham-Whitfield and Inspector Malloy Campbell.
Why don't the British have any sort of protection like the American cops do? All they have is, like, mace and a stun gun, dude. Y'all need to have your own katanas, too. And where is this dude getting swords from? He's just prancing around the streets with a samurai sword, killing children.
Who tried to intervene.
Literally only in London.
And sustained serious injuries in the attack. In a panic, officers shouted, "Lock your doors," as Monzo roamed the neighborhood. He was finally subdued around 7:22 a.m. after officers used a taser and tackled him to the ground. On June 25th, 2025, Marcus Arduini Monzo was found guilty and was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 40 years. Pre-teen crimes. On May 29th, 2024, 63-year-old Scott Habermale was cycling to work at Sandia National Laboratories in Albuquerque when a car suddenly swerved into the bike lane and struck him. By the time the authorities arrived, he was dead at the scene with no leads and no traces. Initially, police received CCTV footage from a nearby church showing the vehicle, but not the occupants. For many months, no arrests were made because there were no immediate leads, identifiable suspects, vehicle registration, or footage linking anyone to the crime. Until 2025, when their attention was called to a viral video online.
Hurry up before that nigga starts.
They gonna hit him hella fast, nigga. Just bump him, bruh.
Like, you like bump him?
Yeah, just bump him. Go like 15, 20.
In the video, two boys can be heard laughing and plotting the hit. One even said, "Just bump him, brah," just before the car hit Scott. The school principal identified the voices in the video, and multiple witnesses identified them by their voices in the video. On the 17th of March, 2025, a 13-year-old was arrested and charged with first-degree conspiracy to commit the act, leaving the scene, and illegal handgun possession. An 11-year-old was also taken into custody. Later, in May 2025, a 15-year-old was arrested after voice recognition linked him to the vehicle mid-reporting.
That's crazy,
now,
dude.
A total of 4 suspects face charges. Minnesota mass shooter. On November 29, 2020, at exactly 2:19 a.m., police received a 911 call reporting fireworks or gunshots at the Shady Oaks apartment complex in Albert Lea, Minnesota. Officer Cody Needham was dispatched to patrol the area, but he had no idea he was walking straight into a trap. Moments after arriving, Officer Needham was ambushed and shot through the side window of his squad car. He quickly took cover and called for backup. What followed was an 8-hour standoff that left the entire neighborhood on edge. At first, officers couldn't tell where the shots were coming from, but as time passed, the danger escalated. The shooter was no longer just firing at the police. He began shooting across the complex at neighbors, at passing cars, and at anyone going about their business unaware of the looming danger. That's when it became clear. The shooter wasn't targeting officers. He was targeting the residents, and the officers had to act fast. They knew 2 things needed to be done. First, stall the shooter and prevent him from moving to a different position. Second, evacuate the building. But there was a major obstacle. They had no key fob to access the apartment complex. The officers split into 2 groups. One stayed back to maintain position and distract the shooter. The other circled to the rear of the building, attempting to evacuate residents from the back. At 2:35 a.m., the shooter fired at 60-year-old Daniel Thorpe, a resident who was exiting the building completely unaware of what was going on. He was shot and wounded. Just moments later, a woman came running out screaming. She had seen the shooter on the far side of the second floor. She handed her key fob to the officers and hid in her car for safety. Then, the shooter fired again, this time at a car driving past the complex. The driver, Preston Flink, was hit in the leg and rushed to safety by officers. By 3 a.m., the SWAT team was activated and arrived on the scene. With backup in place and a way into the building, officers successfully evacuated the ground floor residents. They also ensured no one remained in open view where the shooter could strike. For a while, the gunfire stopped. As dawn approached, the police finally gained full visibility. With drones in the air and a sniper ready, they spotted the shooter on the third floor. Officers tried to negotiate, but the shooter refused to engage. 7 hours had passed, and officers had run out of options. At 9 a.m., tear gas was deployed into the apartment. Forced to move, the shooter stepped close to the window. In that instance, a Minnesota State Patrol sniper fired, shattering the glass and injuring him. Defeated, the shooter surrendered and was taken into custody.
Early 20s?
He was identified as 21-year-old Devin Wyland. In a shocking twist, investigators discovered that he had been the one who made the 911 call, an elaborate setup to lure Officer Needham into an ambush. When questioned, Wyland explained that he wanted to die but didn't believe in taking his own life. So he came up with a plan: call in a fake report, provoke the police, and get them to shoot him. That's why he never aimed directly at officers. But the court didn't buy it. He was found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree attempted and 3 counts of second-degree MM with a deadly weapon. On February 28, 2023, Devin Wyland was sentenced to 50 years in prison.
50 years? Whoa. Okay. What is wrong with people, dude? Like, what do you earn from killing someone, dude? It makes no sense to me. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you really have that much hatred against someone that you need to kill them? Alright, that's it for today's video, and have a good day.